morning, everyone. If you'd please stand and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. It is February 22nd, Monday. This is Broadwater County Business Meeting. Whoops. Before we get started, we have a revised agenda this morning. We had a department head who needed to get on the agenda, so we took off the adjusting journal entries, and we'll do that with a budget review coming up. We have a planning meeting coming up with a subdivision review, and then the forest ranger will be here to talk about the forest plan revision update and wilderness evaluation review. We'll also have a 1:30 that's not on the agenda, so no decisions will be made, and that will be more of an education in-house from our HR contractor on the importance of the personnel policy handbooks and the need for everyone to follow those for the county for the good of you guys, so that we don't cost you in a lawsuit needlessly. So with that, we will move into just some housekeeping. We do follow Robert's Rules of Order. Our meetings are recorded. They are on YouTube, so please state your full name before any public comment. The purpose of our policies is to open our meetings to all county citizens. We have a fiscal and fiduciary responsibility to conduct county business as efficiently as possible for all Broadwater County residents. Separate conversations need to be taken outside. Outbursts will not be tolerated. Public comment will give each person who wishes to speak an initial 3 minutes to do so, and all comments need to be directed to the board chair. So with that, we will move into public comment. Is there any public comment this morning? Bill.
Bill Up the Grove, just a taxpayer. To the commissioners, all the taxpayers are looking to the two of you with this important decision about the selection of the interim commissioner. I hope that you two of you are able to agree on some selection that will allow our county to move ahead. I hope you'll pick someone that loves this county and looks at the everyday county business as opposed to anybody with a political or narrow personal agenda. Since we now pay you 32 hours a week with health care, it's a real job, and I hope whoever you pick, you'll find someone that is a good communicator, that holds some office hours here in the courthouse, has good computer skills, including the use of email and Microsoft Word and maybe Excel spreadsheets for our budgeting. But my thoughts are with both of you, and I hope you can help our county find somebody good, because we need this commission to have 3 people on it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? Public comment? Mike, do you want to speak to us now about your needs? All right, come on.
I guess there's 2 things. Mike Myers, maintenance. There's been an ongoing leak over in the museum, which I'm working with the insurance company, because we got dry rot down inside the walls, because somebody tried to repair it about, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, what I was told. And the roof was put on 15 years ago and improperly put in the valleys. So now we got water going up underneath the shingles. And when we had the freeze, you could see the whole roof heaving like 4 or 5 inches because the water's going in and freeze. So I'm working with the insurance company. I'm not sure how much they'll cover, but they're saying they cover the whole thing because T-lock shingles are obsolete. They're gone. You can't even get them. So the insurance companies like to replace the whole thing. So that's where we're at on that. And then I have some dry rot I got to fix in the interior of the museum. And then the other issue is, and I talked about it last year, is down at the WIC building. If you go up on the roof and you can look, we're not leaking yet, but the shingles are at the end of their life. The shingles are shrank past the drip edge, and you can see where the shingles also have shrank back from where the tar underneath the shingles will stick. So we need to address that pretty soon before we hit our rains. We could leak this year, But I'd kinda like to get it fixed before we have a leak, and then we have, insulation being replaced, and sheet rock, and other issues. So, I have 2 bids already on it, and they said that it's an end of life too on the 2 companies, and it's approximately around $7,000.
Do you have money in your building CIP?
I have money in the building CIP, yes.
All right. Franklin?
Yeah, if there's a leak in there, caused that much damage already, it should have,
Yeah.
probably should have been done before this. And I imagine those original shingles and the other one, their life is gone.
I think it's I think on the WIC building, how I understand it, it's what I've been told, it's about 25 years already on those. So most shingles are 25 to 30 before they're end of life.
Yeah,
That's what
I'm
I'm
sure it's
told.
over 25 on that bill.
Yeah, it might even be longer than that, that's all I've been told. So we need to kind of address that one. The senior center is fine, the dinner hall, that one's fine. So that one looks pretty good, that looks good for another 5 to 10 years.
Well, this is just the museum side.
The museum is insurance, because we can, as T-lock shingles, they're obsolete, you can't even get T-locks. You can probably find some to repair it, but this is a pretty bad repair. Insurance companies don't like to pay for repair on T-lock, they just want to replace the whole thing. And then down at the WIC, they're end of life on their shingles, so I'd like to replace it before we have a leak issue and a whole bunch of extra repairs on that one.
So basically, you need consensus from us to move forward with the museum and the WIC roof.
Yeah, I'm not sure on the museum if do we need to have consensus to move forward? I just wanted to inform you on it, because of it being an insurance thing, it's not really, I don't even think there's gonna be any money involved through the county. I think it's just gonna be insurance claim on
We
that
should
one.
still probably give you that insurance, that
Okay.
assurance just in case it goes over or there's something that
Oh,
comes
okay.
up.
Yeah, with that life, I imagine there would be some expense, but anyway, yeah, person better get on it.
Yeah.
All right, it sounds like you have, from both of us, an assurance to move ahead as you need to for both roofs.
Okay, thank you.
All right, are you good with that, Franklin?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a major thing.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, you guys have a good day.
You too. Okay, Montana Minute. Franklin, do you have something good to say about our state or community?
Oh, I don't know, as a whole, I think everything's going pretty good, so that's about it.
All right, I just wanted to commend our businesses. Our business climate here in the community, as you guys know, those business owners not only provide a service to us, but they provide jobs that support families, that then support our school and support our community. And then every single time there's an event, a school event, a nonprofit event, we go to those businesses and ask for help, and they always say yes. So I just wanted to commend our businesses here in the community. Anyone else have a Montana Minute they want to share? Paul?
Congratulations to our high school basketball teams.
Absolutely.
We certainly should mention them.
Absolutely.
They have done an outstanding job over the weekend.
Yes. Anyone else? Any good news? All right. Commissioners' Community Update. Franklin, what have you done over the last couple of weeks?
I was in for the meeting to hire the payroll clerk, and then also the meeting for the contract for the WIC program over there.
We've had a number of meetings, both hiring for a vacated position and with public health. On top of that, there was also the Youth Justice Council. Last week, we're working on alternatives to youth detention. Some kids need to go to detention. Other kids can be better treated with alternatives. Montana Board of Crime Control quarterly meeting was also last weekend, and we had a stakeholders meeting in which people representing the different facets of law enforcement. What sits on the board is law enforcement, defense, prosecution, victim services, local government, the funding arm. And basically a consensus was found that we need to focus on prevention. So there may be a little bit of a new focus for the state of Montana on crime prevention. The MACO and the legislature formed a working group. It's called the Tax Lien and Deed Working Group, and we're working on legislation. We had an all-dayer last week on the same day as the commission meeting. That's why we didn't have one. And then also there's an infrastructure working group. It's estimated that the not passing the infrastructure bill is going to cost the state upwards of $3 million. So there's a couple of different working groups around the state trying to address infrastructure in the state, what our true needs are and what to address first and priorities. So that's it. So moving along, I think we're a little bit early for you, Nicole, by 5 minutes. So we'll go ahead and take care of minutes. We have minutes from January 29, February 8, and February 10. And these were all sent out to us a couple weeks ago. What say you, Franklin?
February 10th and January 29th, I will look at February 8th. I'll go ahead and we approve those two right now.
Motion is for which ones?
10th, February 10th, and January 29th.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes for January 29 and February 10. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries. So on to mail. A lot of you know that the ambulance building is a very old, was poorly constructed building. I wanted to share with you what we're paying in heating for that building. Right now it's housing our ambulances and extension until we get a home for both of those that's more permanent and better constructed. Last month our bill for heating was $1,000 for just the ambulance building was $1,692.81. This past month, our bill is for $1,172.60. Was stated a couple months ago and even a year ago that we're paying about $10,000 a year to heat that one building. That is what we're paying to heat the entire courthouse. That's what we're paying for just the ambulance building. So I wanted to bring that forward and put it on the record. How much money were just thrown out the window.
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
Is it possible to find another source of heat for that?
At this point, no. The building is really so dilapidated that any money put into it is just a waste of money at this point. There's other problems too that will be coming to light as soon as we have the investigation completed. But it's really one problem after the next. This is just one of the many problems.
I mean, it's heated by gas, isn't it?
It's propane and electric.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's a great deal of competition between the propane companies. I know there have been a lot of people and a lot of businesses that have changed sources.
Yeah, Mike's been pretty proactive on trying to make sure we have the good windows, which has cut our heating for the courthouse. Trying to make sure we have the least expensive propane. It's unfortunately just the building. It's the biggest problem. So, but yeah, thank you very much.
Sure.
And I will pass that to you if you'd like to look at it, Franklin. We have a letter from the Montana Board of Investments. We have investments through STIP, and I don't know what STIP stands for. Do you, Ann?
Not right offhand.
It's a investment pool for county investments. We just have to do a resolution, and that's new per new MCA, the last legislative session. We have a letter from Fish, Wildlife, and Parks, and they are going to be publishing an MAR notice pertaining to the proposed amendment of the above stated rule. And this is for public land access tax credits. If anyone would like to take a look at that, you are more than welcome to. We have an invitation from the Vigilante Electric Cooperative. This is an official notice of the 2016 annual meeting of the members, and it will be Friday, March 4th at University of Montana Western at Dillon. We have a very nice letter from Bill and Catherine Beatty, written the 8th of February. Dear Broadwater County Commission, we ask that you to appoint Wynn Meehan as the Broadwater County Sheriff. We met Wynn 6 years ago and have always been impressed with his professionalism and courteous demeanor. Wynn has an impressive knowledge of law enforcement, plus he has an extensive understanding of Broadwater County. Thank you for your consideration, Bill and Catherine Beatty. So it will please them to know that we did appoint him as Broadwater County Sheriff last time we met. We have a thank you letter from the Broadwater Food Pantry, written February 5, dear Broadwater County and its representatives. On behalf of the board of Broadwater Food Pantry, we would like to thank you for your very generous donation of $3,000. We appreciate your help in meeting the current need of Broadwater County. The Broadwater Food Pantry is affiliated with the Broadwater County Social Services Committee, a 501c3 organization, and your gift is deductible to the full extent of the law. We also affirm that neither goods nor services were provided in return for this donation. Sincerely, Don Thompson, Treasurer, Broadwater Food Pantry. And we have a BOC news bulletin, and this is Building Operator Certification. We'll give that to Mike. Renewable Resource Grant and Loan Program is now accepting applications for resource grants. Can I give that to you, Nicole?
Certainly.
All right. We'll give it to Ann first to go through the process. And finally, we have a notice of 10 Mile South Helena project, DEIS availability. And this is the 10 Mile South Helena project. They are taking public comment if anyone is interested. So there is that. And it is 10:16. Oh, Bernadette, I'm sorry.
Yes,
COS review, come on up. Can I get that claim, please, Franklin?
This is a Bernadette from Schauber Surveying. This is a boundary relocation for kiddos in Hensley, down off the highway from Raidersburg, down Highway 437. And basically what it is, I'll move it down here. They were cleaning up some property lines. They moved this boundary from where it was to the fence line, to make the fence lines the boundary. The same here, this was an old fence line, so they just moved it to the old fence line. This tract here, they moved, there was a little portion of this on the other side of the road. So they gave that little sliver to this parcel since it was on the other side of the road. And there was a discrepancy of this deed, so we just corrected it per survey. So nothing was created, just a few boundary lines changing and just cleaning up a correct.
Okay.
Okay, I guess, any other discussion on that, or not, I'll make a motion, we accept the seal between,
Yep, I can see it.
between Kiddo and Hensley.
I'll second the motion. It's been moved and seconded to support the boundary relocation. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
Oh, that's no problem, I'm here for this.
Thanks, Renee.
Thank you.
All right, 10:15, Planning Department, Cole Brown, subdivision review, preliminary plat approval, Galsagori Tract 3 minor subdivision, and Tract 4 minor subdivision, dash decision.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I have one book for you. Bernadette is a genius. These are very similar subdivisions. Bernadette is the representative. Tract 3 is on one side, flip it the other way. Tract 4 is on that side because they're identical. Two separate minor subdivisions. So I'm going to give you Tract 3 facing up.
Thank you.
I'm also hoping that you will allow me to only read one findings of fact in order. Even though there are two separate subdivisions, the findings of fact in order are identical, the conditions are identical. The only thing that's different is the developer.
Yes, that would be fine. Are you okay with that,
I don't
Franklin?
want to bore everyone reading over this twice. So I'm just going to read over 3 and then I'll touch on 4 so you can make 2 separate motions.
Okay, you bet.
There are pictures of preliminary plats inside of your packet. There should be item number 3, I believe, if you care to look at those. All right, so this is the findings of fact in order for the Galsgore Tract 3 minor subdivision. The date of application was December 17th, 2015. The date of sufficiency was January 4th, 2016, and the review period will end February 24th, 2016. So you will need to make a motion today. You'll need to make a decision today. The owner of this property is Ronald Obrey out of Auburn, California. The applicant was Greg Shope, also out of Fresno, California, and the applicant's representative is Bernadette Swenson of Townsend. This property is situated in part of the southwest quarter of Section 9, Township 8 North, Range 1 East of Broadwater County. It's located north of Galsgore Road, approximately 13 miles northwest of Townsend, Montana. The developer plans to create 5 lots from an existing 102.7 acre parcel. The lots will range in size from 20.42 to 20.59 acres. The preliminary review fee, the preliminary review fee of $2,000, the weed inspection fee of $300, and the environmental health review fee of $500 have all been paid. Review is performed pursuant to Montana Subdivision and Platting Act, Section 76.3.101 through 76.3.614, Montana Codes Annotated, and the Broadwater County Subdivision Regulations. The proposed Galsgore Tract 3 minor subdivision, as submitted by the applicants, together with the required supplementary plans and information, appear to satisfy the requirements of these regulations and comply with the Broadwater County Growth Policy Plan dated July 2007. A vicinity map, as well as a preliminary plat, are provided in the preliminary plat application. No rock outcroppings or the presence of bedrock have been identified on the property. The nearest open water body is the Canyon Ferry Lake Reservoir, which is approximately 2¼ miles to the east. The proposed development is not in an area subject to flood hazard. Since all proposed lots are greater than 20 acres, the Environmental Health Office will review the lots for wastewater treatment system sizing and location. Each lot will be served by an individual well and an individual wastewater treatment system. Lot owners will be responsible for disposal of their own solid waste. Subdivision residents will have the option of hiring an independent contractor to pick up their solid waste or transport it themselves to the Winston Canister site or the Townsend Canister site. 2 existing seasonal drainages traverse all 5 lots in this proposed subdivision. Both drainage channels are depicted on the preliminary plat as well as the topo map. The drainages will remain undisturbed so as not to affect any downstream landowners. Proposed building sites on each lot will further ensure the integrity of the drainages. The current use of this parcel is vacant land. This property should not have an effect on agricultural productivity since it is not currently utilized for any ag purposes. According to the Agricultural Land Subdivision Criteria, Appendix K, this property is not considered prime farmland even if it were irrigated. Even though the surrounding lands are occasionally used for agricultural purposes, this proposed development will not interfere with any movement of livestock or machinery for agricultural purposes. The responsibility to fence livestock out will be the responsibility of the developer and subsequently the individual landowners once the parcels are sold. Also, the developer will be required to control any noxious weeds until such time as the parcels are sold. Since this proposed development is neither a major subdivision nor a subsequent minor subdivision, an environmental assessment was not required. No falls, slides, or slumps or adverse soil, rock, mud, or snow have been identified on the property. No rock outcroppings have been identified either. The northern portion of the property is quite steep and therefore depicted as a no-build zone on the preliminary plat. There is no marsh, shrub, or forest lands located on the property. There is no tree or vegetation cover. Existing vegetation consists of light native grasses and some prickly pear cactus. No critical plant species have been identified. Any construction disturbance will be reseeded with a native grass seed mix. A weed management plan is in the process of being developed with assistance by the Broadwater County Weed Board to control and prevent the growth and/or spread of noxious weeds. The developer will be responsible for adhering to the weed management plan until all lots are sold or the responsibility is turned over to a homeowners association. Wildlife such as antelope, deer, upland game birds, other small birds, snakes, rabbits, fox, and coyote most likely utilize the proposed subdivision. However, the use is probably infrequent due to the lack of cover in prime feeding areas. Therefore, the impacts to wildlife should be minimal. A letter was sent to the Montana Historical Society on November 11, 2015. A response from Damon Murdo, Cultural Records Manager with MHS, was written on November 19, 2015. According to Mr. Murdo, based on the lack of previous inventory and the ground disturbance required by this undertaking, we feel that this project has the potential to impact cultural properties. We therefore recommend that a cultural resource inventory be conducted in order to determine whether or not sites exist and if they will be impacted. In a follow-up email from the developer's representative, Bernadette Swenson, to Mr. Murdo, she asked for clarification on how a cultural resource inventory is conducted. Mr. Murdo stated that this is usually conducted by a professional archaeologist, but if this is not a requirement of the Broadwater County subdivision regulations, a cultural resource inventory is not enforceable. All correspondence pertaining to this issue is documented as item number 33 in the preliminary plat application. Access to all lots will be off of Galsagori Road, which is a county road. Prior to commencing construction, a driveway approach permit application will need to be processed and approved by the county road supervisor. The owners of the property have submitted and paid for all 5 of the driveway approach permit applications, but they will not be approved until the actual driveway approach is ready to be installed. This development will potentially add up to 40 vehicle trips per day to Galsagori Road. Utility service will be provided by Northwestern Energy. Natural gas service is not currently available. Landline phone service will be provided by CenturyLink. 2 letters, both dated November 11, 2015, were mailed from Bernadette Swenson to Northwestern Energy and CenturyLink, respectively, requesting a review of the subdivision application and the possibility of connecting to these services. Mrs. Swenson also requested information regarding the cost of connection. To date, a letter has not been received from either company. The proposed development is in the Broadwater County Rural Fire District jurisdiction. The distance from the nearest fire station, the Winston Fire Hall, is 3.2 miles. According to a letter from the developer's representative dated November 11, 2015, the developer is willing to pay $3,000 to the Broadwater County Rural Fire Department. Typically, the BCRFD requires either a fire suppression system be installed or the developer has the option to pay a $1,000 per lot cash in lieu of water supply fee. To date, a response has not been received from the fire department. The Broadwater County Sheriff's Department will provide law enforcement services. The Sheriff's Department is located approximately 13 miles from this proposed subdivision. An email response to a letter of inquiry has been received from then, and it should say now, but this was written before he was sheriff, from then Under Sheriff Meehan, stating there should be no significant impacts or issues with public safety regarding this proposed development. The Broadwater Health Center, also located in Townsend, will provide both ambulance and emergency medical services to the subdivision residents. The proposed subdivision is served by the Townsend School District. This subdivision could potentially produce 7 to 8 students according to figures obtained from the Broadwater County Growth Policy Plan. The potential for new students from this development could have an impact on existing bus routes, which may need to be altered once the subdivision is at full build-out. A school bus turnaround is not proposed as part of this development plan. Lands to the north, south, and west are used for agricultural purposes. Lands to the east are part of the proposed Galsagori Tract 4 minor subdivision. Because of the relatively large size of the parcels, the impacts of this development on surrounding landowners should be minimal. Because of the somewhat isolated location of this property with minimal windbreaks, high winds could pose a potential safety issue to subdivision residents. Also, the possibility of a grass fire is a risk that could be mitigated by property owners by following fire-wise design standards and keeping a buffer zone around any structures. Stormwater flooding from the existing drainages could prove hazardous to subdivision residents whom will need to remain aware of water levels in these drainages. Since this is the first minor subdivision and the acreage of these proposed parcels are greater than 5 acres, the parkland dedication requirement is not required for this proposed development. It is hereby ordered that the preliminary plat for the Galsagori Tract 3 minor subdivision is approved, subject to 2 conditions listed below. Final plat approval shall be contingent upon completion and compliance with these conditions. Number 1, plans for sewage treatment and water supply shall be submitted to the Broadwater County Health Department, Environmental Health Department, for review and approval. The letter of approval shall be filed with the final plat. Number 2, prior to any development, a driveway approach permit shall be requested from the Broadwater County Road Department. Number 3, prior to any development and/or soil disturbance, a weed management plan for the proposed development shall be submitted to the County Weed District for review and approval. Number 4, plans for the location and installation of individual mailboxes shall be reviewed and approved by the U.S. Postal Service prior to installation. Number 5, that there shall be 60-foot no-build zones around all drainages on the subject property. These no-build zones shall be depicted on the final plat. Number 6, the applicant will be required to submit the final plat drawings in electronic format to Broadwater County in ArcGIS, AutoCAD, or MicroStation format. Additional materials may be requested by the county in electronic format to facilitate review of application materials. Number 7, the applicant and the Fire Protection Authority having jurisdiction, the FPAHJ, shall use their best efforts to draft a fire protection plan specifically for this subdivision in accordance with the Broadwater County subdivision regulations. The plan shall be equally acceptable to the FPAHJ, the applicant, and the county governing authority. The plan shall adequately address the fire risk analysis, all findings of fact, and appropriate mitigation measures. In the event the parties are unable to come to agreement by final plat submittal, the applicant shall become eligible to provide the per lot cash in lieu fee for water supply, as may be defined in the Broadwater County subdivision regulations in effect at the time of submittal. Number 8, the final plat shall be prepared in accordance with applicable state survey requirements, Montana Subdivision and Platting Act survey requirements, and the county subdivision regulations. Number 9, the book and page reference to the restrictive covenant filed with the county clerk and recorder shall be indicated on the face of the final plat. In addition, restrictive covenants, revocable or alterable only with the consent of the Board of County Commissioners, shall be placed upon the property and shall provide for the following. A, notification of the potential health risk from radon concentrations, and that such risk can be evaluated through soil tests and mitigated through radon abatement techniques incorporated into structures. B, a notification that all dwelling units within the subdivision should be constructed to specifications which meet or exceed equivalent provisions in the applicable state building code for this seismic zone, which is Zone 3. C, any additional replacement or relocated utility lines shall be installed underground in accordance with county subdivision regulations unless otherwise determined by the utility provided. D, information on the driveway length to lots shall be provided to the Broadwater County Planning Office. Driveways 500 feet or greater shall be designed meeting Broadwater County subdivision regulations, and a turnaround or hammerhead T turnaround shall be provided for emergency vehicles with a 3-point turnaround ability. E, any exterior lighting shall be directed downward to minimize visibility beyond the property line. F, a waiver of the right to protest to join a special district for the purpose of providing community water and/or wastewater treatment system improvements and/or maintenance. G, a restrictive covenant binding the landowner, any heirs, successors, and assigns, and all future owners of property within the subdivision, agreeing therein to hold Broadwater County harmless and indemnify Broadwater County from all claims, demands, obligations, suits, causes of action, damages, and liability, including the county's costs and attorney's fees, arising in any manner whatsoever out of or relating to the existence, use, operation, repair, and/or maintenance of the following. Subitem 1, earthquake fault zone and any seismic activity, and subitem 2, water availability. H, all cats and dogs must be restrained, penned, or otherwise under the control of their owner at all times. I, notification of the presence of ag operations in the vicinity. J, each lot shall be maintained in a clean, attractive, and weed-free manner. Noxious weeds must be pulled, sprayed, or cut prior to seed maturity. K, a waiver of right to protest joining a rural improvement or maintenance district for the purpose of road maintenance, mosquito control, or equitably funding parks and maintenance of parks. L, address numbers shall be clearly marked at the driveway entrance to each lot and be easily identified from the road. M, a notification that lots in the subdivision may be subject to impact fees if in place prior to lot sales. And N, if any cultural resource and/or historical items are discovered on the property, Montana Historical Society shall be notified. Condition 10, prior to filing the final plat, the following improvements shall be installed or otherwise guaranteed. A, utilities abutting and available to each lot. And B, any necessary improvements required by the stormwater drainage plan, weed management plan, driveway approach. If said improvements are not installed prior to final plat, then the applicant shall enter into a written subdivision improvements agreement with Broadwater County, guaranteeing the construction and installation of such improvements, and shall provide an acceptable financial security guarantee in accordance with Broadwater County subdivision regulations. Number 11, prior to filing the final plat, the applicant shall provide proof that all taxes and special assessments assessed and levied on the property are paid for the current tax year, including any past delinquencies, and B, provide documentation, an abstract of title or platting certificate, showing that the applicant is the lawful owner of the property with the apparent authority to subdivide the same, showing the names or lien holders, of lien holders or claimants of record, and the written consent to the subdivision by the owners of the land, if other than the applicant, and any lien holders of claimants of record against the land. The applicant is financially responsible for actual outside engineering, consulting, professional and/or contracted service fees, etc., at the sole discretion of the county for additional review and/or final plat approval of the proposed subdivision. Preliminary plat approval of the Gazagoy Tract 3 minor subdivision shall be enforced for 3 calendar years. At the end of this period, the governing body may, at the request of the subdivider, extend its approval for a mutually agreed upon period of time. Any mutually agreed upon extension must be in writing and dated and signed by the members of the governing body and the subdivider or subdivider's agent. The governing body may issue more than one extension. A party as defined by 763625 MCA who is aggrieved by a decision of the governing body may, within 30 days after this decision, appeal to the Broadwater County District Court.
Thank you. Franklin, do you have any questions?
This will just open it up to where there'll be public hearings and so on.
No public hearing. It's a minor subdivision.
So there won't be any.
No public hearing. No.
The other thing, you say it has to be done today.
It does. It expires, that we have a deadline of the 26th to make a decision.
That's kind of a late notice on it, isn't it?
Well, I generally give you 2 weeks. This time you only have one option. And that's, you were gone, not by any fault of your own, but you were gone last week, and so it just fell that way. The planning board did not meet until February 2nd, I believe, to make a decision on it.
So mainly it's just opening up that they can go ahead.
And move
With-
forward, meeting
with
the
future
conditions.
plans.
They would have to meet all of those 10 conditions plus the sub-items in order to get final plat approval, and at that time they'll come back to you, or I'll come back to you, with all of the information showing that they have met each of those conditions.
I guess you answered my question there.
All right, Julie, did you have something to add?
I just wondered if you are aware that DNRC requires the sage-grouse habitat study for any new subdivision, and whether or not any of that, the application was submitted on it.
No, and that's not one of our requirements in subdivision, so I guess I'll have to get with DNRC on that, and maybe we can add that as a condition.
Yeah. That, it's not gonna be a major impact. They're large enough parcels, but you still have to go through the steps, and I can show you how to do that. But that probably should be added to the conditions that you get approval, or they get approval from DNRC for
We
the
can
sage-grouse
add that.
habitat, because it's now more protected.
I'll probably add that as number 4, just pop it in there.
We've been dealing with the sage-grouse issue a lot in our MACO committees, and it doesn't appear that Broadwater County is a real hotbed, so this shouldn't be a big issue.
I've been dealing with the BLM Resource Advisory Council also, and that's rarely are we ever brought up.
Yeah. Can you speak to the variance that was requested for,
Yes, I'm sorry, and I should have brought that up first, so thank you for noting on that. Basically, they do not meet the 3-to-1 ratio, 3-to-1 ratio being length 3 times greater than the width. In this case, because the no-build zone, I think most of you are probably familiar with that property, it's so steep along the northern portion of these lots, so that's no-build zone. So really, if you were to cut out that no-build zone, the 3-to-1 ratio is really a non-issue. And it's just to keep those lots accessing off of Gazagoy Road, not having to build any roads, messing with those drainages, and because of the steep slopes and no-build zones.
Thank you.
So yes, thank you for bringing that up.
I guess the other thing, especially with the land, the way it lays and everything, it'd be in there, it can't be broken into smaller, minor.
We can't really say that now when they come back, or I should say when, because I have no idea if they will. If for some reason they ever come back, that will have to be looked at, and it would be very, very difficult to subdivide these parcels further because of the no-build zone of the drainages. because of the no-build zone, you know, to the north with those steep slopes. It would be very difficult for someone to try and split this again. But if they did, they would come back to you. You can't really say they can't do that, otherwise that's a takings on behalf of the commissioners. You can't really say that at this time, that you can't further subdivide. You simply would have another opportunity to look at it.
If, after and when it was approved, and then if they come
Right,
back
yeah,
up.
yeah, when it, you know, when this was all done and recorded and they've met all of their conditions, they filed it, and if, you know, a lot owner said, you know, I wanna split this 1 more time, 2 more times, 5 more times, I would have to look at it. It would be very difficult to approve it. It would be very difficult for the planning board to make recommendations on it, and subsequently, you know, it would fall on the commissioners to make the final decision for approval or denial.
Yeah, you see these things are gonna be 5-acre lots, and all of a sudden they're breaking them into 2 or 3 more lots and stuff, you know, and pretty soon they're all jammed in, just like it might as well be living right in the city.
In town, right, exactly. Yeah, but you really can't, I don't wanna tell you what you can and cannot do. But you really shouldn't make that decision today, that they
Right,
could
okay.
not be further subdivided.
But as long as that's a viable decision.
But it would still, it would all end up here for the commission to look at. And at that point in time also, since it would be a subsequent minor subdivision, even if they split one of these lots in half one time, it would open it up for public hearing. So.
Nicole, the cultural resource inventory, we don't have that, I'm assuming, so correct me if I'm wrong, we don't have that in our
We do
subdivision
not.
regulations.
We do not,
Okay.
and I don't know if you've read through that item 33, I believe it was, you know, the correspondence between Montana Historical Society and Bernadette, the representative on this project. Montana Historical Society does not have the authority to require a cultural resource inventory be conducted. We don't have anything, so the planning board and I, you know, we discussed it, and, you know, Bernadette agreed on behalf of the developer that we would put it in as a commission required covenant, because then it gives it a little more teeth, instead of just putting it into the body of the findings of fact and order report, which no landowner ever sees. I shouldn't say that, but I highly doubt that anyone that purchases a piece of property will ever see this document unless they come in to get it. But if it's a commission required covenant, that's something they get with their deed, and when they purchase the property, they see that, you know, and the onus is on them. If they find any type of, you know, cultural resource, to contact Montana Historical Society. But we just don't, the county doesn't have any authority to require that because it's not in our subdivision regulations. Montana Historical Society doesn't have any authority to require that. So it's a friendly suggestion that we put in there to hopefully encourage lot owners to be responsible.
Okay. And the vehicle trips per day will be 80 when you add the 2 subdivisions.
Yes, yeah.
What's the threshold for required improvements to the road?
You know, I don't know what condition that road is in now. I drove it. It's okay, but I don't really know how to tell the difference just visually in driving on what is local number 1 road and a local number 2. A local number 1 road is 8 to 400 vehicle trips per day. So even if it were just at the minimum standard, these plus the Galzagoy family owns a home down there are going to be the only ones. So it's not going to push it over that 400 vehicle trips per day threshold for a local number 1 road.
Okay.
Which is our minimum standard in subdivision regulations. Does that answer your question?
It does, yep. The other question I had was the school bus stop. 7 to 8 kids per subdivision, so we're talking 14 to 16. They could, this is off of the highway, so one would assume the school bus would pull over onto the road just there right next to the highway, and the kids would be responsible for getting to that bus stop. Is that what
You know, it's
would be
potentially,
assumed?
I don't want to speak on behalf of the school, but what they've done in the past is, you know, this is so close to Winston, those kids might have to get to Winston, you know, to that bus stop there. I know the school is good about accommodating students and accommodating families, but they also cannot stop at every driveway or every location to pick up children, especially on the highway. I know
Right.
they really try to stay away from that.
I'd say if they didn't go to Winston, they'd have to have a school bus turnaround there.
Yeah, but with the school not weighing in and letting us know what they're looking at, it's difficult to say. And also because there are no students there.
Right.
The school is not, they're not unreasonable in that. But to say, okay, well, in the future, there could be 16 students, right now there's nobody. Should these developers be required to put a school bus turnaround right there, they would also have to get easement from Winston Livestock in order to, fit it into that area. Well, I would assume, I guess I shouldn't assume, but I would assume they would have to get an easement from Winston Livestock in order to put a school bus turnaround right at the entrance, or a pull-off of some sort, pull off of the highway.
And then that would be that would have to be put every subdivision.
Every subdivision, yep, and
Mhm.
we just haven't done that.
Okay. And did you get any public comment at all? I know you didn't hold public comment. but
No,
Did you get
we
any?
had
others?
planning board public meetings, but no, I received no public comment, written, verbal, nothing.
Okay. That's all the questions I have. Do you have any more, Franklin?
I believe so.
All right. Well, what say you?
Well-
Could I make a suggestion?
Yes.
I'm really sorry.
Yes.
That you move on the variance first before you move on.
Mm.
So you'll have to request the variance for the 3-to-1 ratio on Galsboy Tract 3. Sorry.
All right. No, thank you for that.
Okay,
So
I'll move on.
you're,
That we accept the variance, you see 3-to-1
Mhm.
ratio. Excuse me, I get you the cold, I haven't had time. But that's my motion.
I'll second the motion. It's been moved and seconded to approve the variance request for, let's see, an increased average dimensional ratio greater than 3:1. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries. What say you regarding the first subdivision, tract 3, Galsbury tract 3?
Well, I said, as long as they met all the requirements and everything, I don't know if there's anything we can even say against it. I mean, at this point, we can give them like would be probably doing the go-ahead to follow up on it.
You would either grant approval with conditions, approval, which would mean none of these conditions, or denial.
And probably a condition should be including the sage grouse
Correct.
piece to the commissioner's covenants.
Well, I'd go along with that then, with all these conditions that you have listed there.
I'll second that motion. It's been moved and seconded to grant preliminary approval to Galsbury tract 3 minor subdivision with the addition of the sage grouse requirement of the NRC. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries. And then we get to do the same thing, Franklin, for number 4.
And I'm just going to point out real quick, the acreage is slightly different and the owner is different, so just for the record, I'm just going to read that part of tract 4. I'm going to give you one minute, so read that one now. Are you reading?
Any public questions on this?
Okay. So, while you're signing that, Galsbury Tract 4, same dates, they were submitted at the same time, but the owner is Denise Obrey. She is out of Auburn, California. This property is in the same location. The only difference is the acreage is slightly less. It's 101.79 acres. So the minimum lot size is 20.3. The maximum lot size is 20.42. So those are the only differences.
We have the same variance request.
Same variance request, yes, ma'am.
So any questions on this one?
Yeah, this applicant is Greg Schrobe. Is that the same one for the south end of the county?
He is the applicant's, yeah, I suppose he's the applicant, but the owner is Denise Obrey. Greg Shobe was helping her with the process. Bernadette is assisting Greg.
Well, what else do you need? The same?
That's it. So just a variance for the 3-to-1 ratio on Galsbury Tract 4.
You do that?
Yeah, just
Okay,
approve the
I'll-
variance for it.
Then we do the 3-to-1 ratio variance. That's my motion.
I'll second that motion. It's been moved and seconded to grant the variance request for dimension ratio greater than 3:1. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries. and regarding the lot 4.
The same as the other, as long as all those conditions are met.
I'll second that motion. It's been moved and seconded to grant preliminary plat to Galsagori Tract 4 minor subdivision with the inclusion of the sage grouse provision. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. You betcha. Oh, thank you very much.
Do you want to keep your book or do you want me to recycle it?
Just
I'll keep
order
it
against
till
the
it goes to
states.
final.
Yep, that's fine, sorry.
It borders against the state section there. Isn't that a state section right
To
in
the
there?
south? I believe so, I believe that's why it's blue.
I know,
There's a piece in
I'm pretty
here.
sure it's state section, at least the state section, and I just wonder if it bordered up against it. It looks like it's in this.
Yeah, I think it is.
That's what I was curious.
Yep. It is. And I'll get copies of these. But do you want the signed sheet? You don't need it, okay. Great, never mind then.
All right, thank you very much. All right, 10:45, we're a little bit late. Corey Llewellyn, District Forest Ranger, Forest Plan Revision Update, Wilderness Evaluation Review. Come on up.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Good to see you guys.
You too?
All right. So, the biggest objective really is just keeping you guys briefed with where we're at on our forest plan revision. You guys know that we started about 2 years ago. It's a 4-year plus process. And we're kind of right in the middle of it right now. And so we're producing a lot of evaluations. 6 months ago we did the Wild and Scenic River evaluation, and that's been posted on the website. So right now we just finished 2 more evaluations. One is what's called the Wilderness Suitability designation, which is again just a process. And 2, we're also looking at lands that are considered suitable for timber production. Both of those evaluations are completed and they're currently on our website. And we're looking for feedback specifically on the wilderness evaluation. Although you can provide feedback on any part of the forest plan, whatever you want, you can go online and provide comments. Both of these topics, the timber suitability and the wilderness evaluation, are going to be discussed in even more detail next Monday at our open house that we're having, 9 to 12 at the community library room. But the comments that we're looking for now are really helping us, if you will, kind of guide the direction that Bill's going to go as the forest supervisor when he releases a draft proposed action. So basically everything right now, even this discussion, the open house we're having, those are just trying to seek as much feedback as we possibly can. When Bill releases a proposed action next year, in the spring of next year, that will go through our formal NEPA process. So you'll have another opportunity to provide comments, just like we would when we release an EA or something for a timber project. But these are important topics. I want to make sure you guys are fully briefed and aware of where we're at with both of these evaluations. So to start with, we'll start with the timber suitability process. A few handouts. These are pretty small maps, but they'll make get the point across.
Thank you.
I got a copy for you actually, if you want a copy. And then if this is kind of a white paper on the timber suitability process, and you don't have to review it right now, of course, but hold on to it if you want. Basically, what we're trying to do with timber suitability process, we're trying to identify lands that are going to be suited for timber production. Basically, it's a piece of land where we know after 5 years of harvest that timber's going to be regenerated and regrowing. Just because a landscape might not get designated as timber, suitable for timber production, doesn't mean we can't harvest timber. So for example, the elkhorns right now are designated as a wildlife management unit. It's not designated as timber suitability. However, we can go harvest timber in the elkhorns if it's benefiting to the design, to the criteria, the standards and guidelines that we have for that area. So again, the big point is just because it doesn't show up as timber suitability, doesn't mean that we can't harvest there. It's just we're not designated it's purely for timber suitability.
It's basically
Makes sense.
the same as it is right now.
Yeah, basically, and it is, you know, this forest plan revision process is definitely looking at things different than we did 30 years ago. And we'll talk about that even more at the open house again. But in our current forest plan, we have a lot of really smaller management areas, if you will, and they're from different kinds of timber productions or wildlife habitat. And right now with the new forest plan revision, we're looking at trying to not make that so, what's the word I'm looking for? Basically, we're trying to minimize that a little bit, to try to keep it a little bit more available for adaptive management. And so right now we're considering maybe you having areas that are designated as what we consider backcountry and front country. And so backcountry is more of those kind of harder to get to, whatever remote areas, and front country is more of your front range of your mountain. We will still have, in the new forest plan, there's a few designations that we'll have no matter what. We're going to have wilderness designation, because we already have that right now. We're going to have wild and scenic river designations. We're going to have inventory wilderness area designations. We'll have like special use areas, like a ski resort or a ski boundary. Those are special designated areas. But besides those 4 or 5, the rest of it may just get broke up into 2 different areas, either considered front range and back range, back country. Front country or back country. But again, this is all very much in the draft phase. You know, the Flathead National Forest, they're about a year ahead of us, and that's how they did it. They broke it up to back country or front country, as well as keeping the wilderness designation and some of those other ones. But so yeah, in a way, it's similar to what we have now. We're just kind of calling it something different. So in the map, everything you see that's blue is considered may be suited for timber production. Areas that were dropped, specifically you see up there, so this is the entire Helena, Lewis and Clark. You see up there in the north corner, the Rocky Mountain Range, it's all green. That's all wilderness. And so we know by law that we can't designate that for timber production. So we automatically drop that. Areas that are bodies of water, areas that are rock outcroppings or big, grow trees. So those kind of things we automatically dropped for being suitable for timber. Also, if you look, I'm sorry, the scale of this map is challenging, but if you look at the Elkhorns, you'll see the big white space in the middle. We also dropped inventory wilderness areas. Again, that doesn't mean we can't harvest timber there, but we're not going to designate it as suitable for timber production. So that's kind of where we got to this process. So really, that's kind of the short and the gist of it. This document will help explain a little bit about how we got here for a timber production perspective, suitable perspective. Again, if you go online, a website, you can pull much better maps than this. And you can provide comments on the timber suitability whenever you want. We're not necessarily seeking like open feedback like we are the wilderness evaluation, but you can provide comments on the forest plan whenever you want. So that's kind of the real quick one on timber suitability. Any questions on that?
No.
Okay. So the next one is the wilderness evaluation inventory. And we just finished that, and again, I'll emphasize it's an inventory and an evaluation.
Are these ones that was kind of in the 60s, late 60s when they did that?
So yeah, the Wilderness Act, it's been around for about 50 years, I think. I think we're just, I should know that answer, but I think it's 50 years. And the wilderness started getting designated in the 70s, somewhere in there. And to back up even more, the only entity that can designate a wilderness is Congress. So we, the Forest Service, do not have the authority to designate wilderness. What we're doing in our process is that from the 2012 planning rule from the Washington office, we're required by law, when we do a forest plan revision, to evaluate areas that could be designated as, that could meet the wilderness criteria, if you will. So we're just, by law, we have to do this process, and that's the process we're doing right now. And so This map, everything you see in the darker green is considered areas that could meet the wilderness evaluation criteria. And by no means does this map reflect what's being proposed. It's just, right now, these are the areas that could meet the wilderness designation. And if you look at it, it's quite a bit of land, if you look across the Helena, Lewis, and Clark. So again, the scale of the map's not the greatest, but you can compare it to the timber suitability map I showed you. And it basically, if you look at the belts and the elkhorns, everything you see that shows up in darker green are areas right now through our evaluation process that landed as being suitable for our wilderness designation. Specifically, we're seeking feedback on this process. We're asking for comments to be back by March 11th. You can provide comments numerous ways. The easiest is probably to go to the website, and you can submit comments through email, you can submit comments through paper mail. And again, we're going to talk about this in more detail on Monday at the open house, but I really wanted to make sure you guys had a kind of your own briefing, your own heads up on it. It can be a controversial topic, and I think the main thing that's really important, and maybe you saw Bill put a letter in the paper, the Helena IR, that specifically talked about the wilderness suitability process, or the wilderness evaluation process. And basically, what we're doing right now is, when we continue to go through this, Bill, when he makes a decision, he'll make a decision that says, in the new forest plan, we're designating areas that could be wilderness. But that doesn't mean that he's designating it as wilderness. Basically, it just says we've identified places that could be, but that's not, Bill doesn't have the authority to make that decision. Again, that's Congress. So the thing that's really clear is, by no means are we right now finalizing and designating wilderness. It's just the evaluation process that we're going through. And this is kind of the first take, if you will, with where we've landed. And then once we get more public feedback, community comments, we'll continue to refine that evaluation and see what works and what doesn't work. Some areas that, a perfect example that where it could land, where Bill says this is an area that I'm going to consider should be designated as wilderness. The Scapegoat Wilderness up in the North Belt on the Helena River District. There may be a small 5,000 acre parcel, 5,000 is quite a few acres, but there could be a piece of land right outside the wilderness that's currently not designated, but it might make sense to make it designated. That happened actually with the Heritage Act up in the Rocky Mountain front. Rocky Mountain Ranger District's mostly wilderness, and they added some wilderness, Congress did, last year, I think, was it, when the Heritage Act came through? 2 years ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Year and a half, maybe. And basically, they said, well, here's your existing wilderness, and there's some areas adjacent that make sense to manage as wilderness, and we're going to add that. So there could be things like that. Right now, basically, like our inventory wilderness areas, for example, in the Elkhorns, it's a large area. From just the process, it meets the characteristics of a wilderness criteria, so that's why it's being looked at as a part of the evaluation.
Okay.
But again, this is kind of the first take, and we're seeking comments on where we're at with the process. And then, again, basically, when we get to next year, Bill will the forest will release a draft proposed action, and it will have kind of where we've settled with some of this. And again, that's even another more formal opportunity to provide comments on all parts, not just the wilderness evaluation, but any aspect of the forest plan. So really, that's the gist of it, just to brief you guys on kind of where we're at with the forest plan, specifically the timber suitability and the wilderness evaluation. And we're seeking comments on the wilderness evaluation right now, due March 11th.
A bigger map would help.
A bigger map would help.
These dots on here don't, terrible, isn't it?
Yeah, the thing to focus on, I wouldn't get too, all the little dots are basically where we have like a communication site or a campground administrative site. The big thing to point your eye to on this map is anything you see in the, I guess, darker green.
Yeah.
Which, across the unit is quite a bit, is what's being evaluated as wilderness. And then same with the timber suitability map. Everything you see in blue is being evaluated for maybe suited for timber production.
And your open house is next Monday?
Next Monday, 9 to 12.
At the school?
Yep, at the community library room there, where it was last time.
All right.
And I know it could be a conflict for you guys because you meet every Monday, so do you feel like, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry, next Monday should be very short.
Okay,
So I'm hoping we can actually go before the
Okay.
meeting and then come back after.
oh, perfect.
Yeah,
We'll be kind of curious to see what kind of outcome. We're trying to come up with different times, because the last couple of ones were late in the evening. And we have had some feedback where that doesn't work for some folks, and some folks will have said, well, shoot, I could probably make a morning meeting or a morning open house. And so, we'll see how it goes.
You'll never find the right time.
I never find the right time, doesn't perfect time for everybody. But. So yeah, that's the gist of what my agenda topic was.
excellent. Any questions from anyone? We'll have these maps available if anybody wants to look at them too. We're happy to make you copies.
You get bigger maps for sheriff's office?
We haven't printed them out yet, but we're going to. So you can swing by and take a look there. And then we have a forest website that's specifically for the forest plan, and it's got even more maps. And actually, I'm glad you brought that question up. We have a tool on the website that's interactive, and you can zoom in on the wilderness evaluation, and you can provide your own comments. You can even draw your own box if you want to, and say this is an area that I think should be considered wilderness, or you could say this is an area I think shouldn't be considered wilderness, and you can write your own comments right there on the website. And so I forgot to mention that, but kind of a neat tool. You can zoom in wherever you want. But we will have some maps printed out at the Forest Service office. It'll be a lot easier to look at.
What's the website, Corey?
Knew you were going to ask that. What I'll do is it's not a short one. It's actually a really long website, and so I didn't want to write it down because it's multiple numbers and letters. And if you go to our Helena Forest page website, you'll see a link that says Forest Plan. You can just click on the Forest Plan. I'll take you right there. But in the email I sent a couple weeks ago to the Broadwater County one, I had the link to the Forest Plan in there. And if it works, I'll forward that to you again. And you can click on that link and it'll take you right there.
If anybody wants that, I can just forward Corey's past email
Yep.
to you with that link, so just let us know.
I'd like to have it.
Okay,
I'd suggest you publish that in the Weekly Reader.
The website you mean, or?
Yeah, a synopsis of the article.
Yeah. And I know they are working on trying to get a couple of articles in the Helena IR. And if the timing works out, we'd like to get it here in the county, Broadwater County News as well.
all right. Any other questions for Corey? Anything more from you, Corey?
On this topic, no?
All right. Franklin, any final questions? All right,
You did your job.
Perfect, thanks for your time, appreciate it.
thank you.
And hopefully we'll see you next Monday.
Absolutely.
All right.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Corey.
take care, guys.
You too. All right, just a couple more quick pieces of mail. We have a booklet here called Fracking in Montana, Asking Questions and Finding Answers. This will be downstairs in the Commissioner's office, if anybody wants to read that. We also have a letter from Department of Natural Resources and Conservation. And this is on it's actually the draft environmental assessment for the Willow Creek Dam and Reservoir. So if anybody wants to read up on that too, nice picture on the back. These will be in the commission office. And we have payroll in the amount of $156,308.99.
Payroll amount stated.
I'll second the motion. It's been moved and seconded to pay payroll in the amount of $156,308.99. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries. We have the approved claims in the amount of $74,000. Let me double check that. $74,245.90. second the motion. It's been moved and seconded to pay the approved claims of $74,245.90. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries. Get your John Hancock there on the back.
Very back page, Franklin.
Just flip it over.
Oh, okay.
We have a revised task order from DPHHS for WIC for public health. I'm sorry, this is for, I believe, immunizations. Check that real quick. Immunization program. We've signed a contract. This is just a revision to a portion of this year's.
Need a motion on that? Yeah, I'll make a motion as stated there.
Second the motion. It's been moved and seconded to sign the task order for immunization for the health department. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries. All right, and the last order of business is we have a letter of interest. We have her resume and application on file. That isn't for public consumption, so I didn't bring that forward, but we've been running an ad for a temporary nurse for the public health office, an LPN. This is from Diane Stefano. I would like to apply for the temporary position at the public health office. Please use my resume and application that you have on file. Thank you for your consideration. So she can start immediately and get some training with Ashland for the WIC program. She is a CNA, and that will suffice for WIC, according to both DPHHS, Lewis and Clark County, and Ashland and Joni. So what say you on that, Franklin?
That was the only applicant. Is the
Yes.
deadline was, when was the deadline?
Winfield, the deadline passed actually, and we extended it to
That's what I said.
Winfield.
Okay.
So this is the only applicant. So, you said you're fine with it, is that a
Yes.
motion?
Yes.
Second the motion, it's been moved and seconded to grant the temporary position at the Public Health Office to Diane Stefano. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye, motion carries. All right, that's it for this morning. Any public comment, questions, concerns? All right, Franklin, anything else for the good of the order?
No.
Oh, the minutes. You have the minutes from 2/8.
I still got them here yet. I have, I'll have them.
Okay.
But we're meeting at 1:30 then today?
I guess so. I haven't gotten confirmation from Corey, but Michelle emailed she might be available. So I just made that comment in case she's available. So Ann, are you good with Franklin keeping those minutes
No,
until this
that's okay.
afternoon?
I'll get them before we get out of here.
We're done.
Okay,
Now.
but I can still do this here tomorrow.
What are you saying? You want to work on it during lunch?
Well, that's what I thought,
Franklin?
if we're meeting at 1:30, that's what I would.
Oh, we don't know for sure. Are you good with him keeping the minutes, Ann? Okay. We will go ahead and we'll adjourn and reopen at 1:30, and I'll try and let you guys know if we have the meeting. We'll at least be here at 1:30 for a few minutes discussion. So we'll just recess for lunch. So till 1:30. Thanks for coming, you guys.
Jeff, welcome. What was your last name?